Welcome to the Get Published podcast, sponsored by Brody Consulting Group. To get more information about our coaching, publishing, executive ghostwriting, and podcast production services, go to getpublishedpodcast.com. Hello, I am Paul Brody, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Get Published podcast, where we help authors get published with a proven system that works. Today, we're being joined by Andresen, author of How Dad Found Himself in the Padded Room, a bipolar father's gift for the world. Aaron, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Paul. I really appreciate you having me.
Are you ready to get started?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, question number one. What is the one piece of advice that you would give to a first-time author who is currently writing their book?
That's a great question. So I think this advice more so applies to creative writing and autobiography writing, as opposed to less about technical writing. So I hope people will just keep that in mind as I speak here. But the number one thing for me that I had to do and that I think other people should do is they need to trust their ideas. They need to have a vision going into the writing process, and then they just need to let their heart guide them through the process. Don't think too much about it or you'll find yourself stuck with writer's block. Think to get the small glimpses of how to move forward and then just feel the words as you write them. Prepare for the emotions that come with the journey and don't reject any of them. It's really a process that you feel yourself through or you feel through, and just really one that you need to embrace. You can't really reject that process. So you need to prepare to struggle. Writing won't come easy. Make sure that you don't judge what you write down. Accept it and move forward, and just save the editing and criticism for later once the emotions pass.
Yeah, I'm a true believer in that myself. My motto is, this thing I always teach my clients is done is better than perfect. Just get it out there. Exactly.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Well, what do you feel is the hardest part about getting published?
So that's an interesting question. I actually believe that in today's world, it shouldn't be very hard to get published. There are many avenues through which people can go to publish themselves, if that's the road that they'd like to go down. I can't speak for the road of getting traditionally published because that's not the road that I've chosen to take. But, Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing, for example, is a fast and easy, free way to get published worldwide, and you still get to keep control of the publishing process. So that's really what I would say in regards to getting published. I think the hardest part, if I had to go down that road about getting published, is just researching the process itself, getting a handle on understanding how the publishing process works, so that you can make the decision that's best for you in the end.
Well, let's talk about marketing. So please share a marketing strategy that you're planning to use in your book launch that you feel is going to work well.
So the marketing strategy for me that I'm most comfortable with, mainly because I've kind of grown up alongside the development of social media, is social media marketing. I like to use social media marketing to reach a large number of prospective readers easily and conveniently at the pace that I'd like to do so. I also enjoy social media marketing because it's got a more personal feel to it. I can really engage with my prospective readers and create those relationships with people that really provide value in terms of my product and their lives. And mainly that's because my first book, which is going to be part of a trilogy called the Padded Room trilogy, is really a story about my life. It's an autobiographical story that intersperses some fictional elements in terms of a J.R.R. Tolkien type universe that goes alongside it. I think that's probably kind of weird sounding to some people. I like to think the idea is sort of unique. But I really enjoy social media marketing because it allows us to view analytics regarding reach, hits, views, and audience composition. If you know your audience, then you can develop your market strategy and evolve it to sell your book.
Well, and what social media marketing strategies do you recommend in particular in regards to the platforms?
Say that again.
What social media marketing platforms do you recommend? So Twitter, LinkedIn,
Oh,
Instagram. What do you recommend?
sure. So I use a number of them. The ones that I prefer are some of the more well-known ones. I use LinkedIn. I spent 10 years as a project manager. I worked for Microsoft and some other Fortune 500 companies. So that's been instrumental in marketing myself publicly, and because the book is kind of an extension of myself and my image that I put out to the world, that I think that's a good thing to tie into my professional life as opposed to my personal life. For my more personal image, I like to use Facebook, Instagram. Those are two social media marketing sites that I really like to use because they have a more personal tone to them, right? I can upload pictures about my life, give readers a little context behind the journey, visual context that's not included in the book because the book is primarily text. And it really helps give vision to the story of my life and the first book that I've written. And so that's really why I enjoy Facebook and Instagram in those ways. I also use a social media platform called Twitch. It's a medium kind of like YouTube in the sense that you can do something called streaming off of it, which is kind of like a podcast just with video. But it's primarily directed towards gamers, video games, which is actually one of the biggest industries now in the world. It's actually surpassed Hollywood movies in terms of revenue and value. So games were also something that were hugely instrumental in my life to, have always been a huge part of my life. I grew up alongside Mario. I was born in 1985. So I've really been kind of around for the whole journey. I even played some Atari, which was before that. And, video games are interesting in the sense that psychologically, they've actually allowed me to survive some of the trauma that I've experienced as a child, and to really kind of remain in a safe spot while my brain was developing, and allowed me to kind of drift into these fantasy worlds that later would evolve into my story and into my journey. And I really want to give back to that community and meet like-minded people that are also passionate about those things. And so I have a show, it's kind of like a TV show just on the internet, that I play video games. A lot of them are my favorite games that my children like. I have 4 children, Jaden, Jackson, Owen, and Finley, who are also gamers and are very passionate about those things. And it's a good opportunity for me to, record the journey of me playing through these games and these stories and giving commentary about my life and my history, and really building a legacy, a unique legacy for my kids that they can go back and watch and, archive and store later for their kids and the kids after them. So Twitch is the main medium actually that I use, and I've built a lot of very great positive relationships with other like-minded people through there. And it's also a good opportunity to market my book. You can put links underneath your stream to any websites that you want. So I have links to all my social media underneath the window where people view my live show. And it's really a great experience. There's also a live chat box on the right side of the stream where people can engage with me. I can read it as I play, and we talk and hang out. And it's really a great medium for a lot of people that are kind of isolated also, because many people game online, maybe because they have a hard time with relationships in real life. They are struggling with a lot of things, and they like to kind of remain more anonymous when they talk with people, and they feel safer that way. So it's a very unique opportunity, and I really embrace it. So, and then the last 2 that I can think of, there's a few other smaller ones, but these are the primary ones. I also use YouTube, and YouTube is just more so a creative outlet for me to put my TV show recordings on there so that other people can view them later. It gives me an opportunity to put them into Adobe Premiere, which is a video editing program, and really get creative with them, and again, tie them into this universe that I've also created in my book trilogy that's related to my life and the fictional elements that I've dreamt up. So that's a great thing for me to do. It's also a place where I can upload our family home videos and really build that legacy again for my children. And then lastly, I use SoundCloud as a medium to self-publish my music that I create. I'm also a musician. I primarily do rap music, but I also like to do softer things like singing and more sensitive material. And that's another medium that I've really embraced that kind of links into my life journey and is a really primary theme of the book that I've written that I really like to use in terms of music. So SoundCloud is very great. All of my work that I've put on there, my mixtapes and things like that I want to get exposure for, people can download them for free. That gives me an opportunity to design cover album art, things like that, because I really like to have creative control of my vision, and I can put it all up there, and then I can later write about the music journey on a site called genius.com, which plugs into SoundCloud, and you can put your lyrics and the context behind the lyrics on that site. And then the two link together, so you can play the songs from Genius, or you can go to the lyrics from SoundCloud. So it's really just about connecting all these social media platforms together in kind of like a web or roadmap, if you will, of a greater social marketing strategy. So yeah, I really enjoy it, and it's been a great experience. It really has.
Well, that's great. I really appreciate you sharing that, because we've had people on the show before. They'll talk a little bit about different social media marketing platforms. They'll talk about LinkedIn or Facebook and Instagram, and they usually offer some great advice with that. But I love the fact that you're using Twitch, because that is a site that is just, it's exploding, and they've got so many different channels, and I believe they also use it for eSports too. Am I correct with that?
Yeah, that's exactly correct. It's and that's one of the big things that's really blowing up and becoming big is the esports industry. I completely understand the people that say, esports isn't really a sport, and it's not this and it's not that.
Oh, it is.
People aren't really physically active, but I think a lot of people that aren't as familiar with games don't, especially hardcore games, don't appreciate or understand the amount of dedication and strategy and hand-eye coordination that goes into really being great at games like these. It's really actually for the more multiplayer games, things like PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds and Ring of Elysium, Fortnite, things like that. And two of those I've been ranked in the top 1% in the world, and it really involves not just a reaction and aiming ability, but it's more so a psychological battle between your adversary and yourself. You've got to predict what they're going to do on the fly, and it's really like a more in-depth version of chess. So again, I appreciate the standpoint that from a physically active point of view, it's not a sport like football or baseball, but I certainly think it's just as worthy of consideration and admiration as those sports are.
Well, and there's quite a lot of money in it. And here in Arlington, they've actually repurposed part of our convention center to create a state-of-the-art esports arena. And the only other one that's really like that is in Las Vegas. And there's going to be some really big tournaments that we're going to be having over here. So, I mean, it's a huge platform, because there's actually people on Twitch that they're making $500,000 a month just by playing video games and streaming. So it's really amazing how that area in particular has grown, and it's also a great outlet to potentially almost like your own version of a podcast, so to speak, with your show, with playing video games and hanging out and building those relationships, but then also having your links below where you can access your book or you can access services. So it's a great way to be an additional part of the foundation for the back end of your business.
Yeah, exactly. And they also, so I'm an affiliate with them. You have to reach a certain number of milestones with viewership, and recording hours and things like that to hit that point. And then the level after that is partner, which I certainly am aiming towards. But once you hit those milestones, they allow you to, throw ads onto your podcast. You split the revenue with Twitch. They have this subscription feature where people can subscribe to your channel for a monthly fee, and you have complete control over customizing the benefits for viewership and subscriptions, to create tiers of subscriptions and rewards, so to speak, or exclusive privileges in your channel, access to features other people don't have. And one of the things that I'm doing is people that subscribe to my channel, for instance, receive a free copy of my book. And I can sign the book. I can send them a handwritten thank you note, just for the support and the love. And it's really great. It's a really great opportunity. I really appreciate Twitch as a medium. They're doing great things for the world, and it really pleases me to see it. So.
Well, excellent. Well, I appreciate you sharing all that, because you're actually our first guest out of 175 episodes that has actually talked about Twitch. So I'm glad we had the opportunity to go a little deeper in that, because it definitely is a great outlet, especially for those that like to play video games. Personally, I like retro games, so it's always a cool way to utilize that by doing Twitch.
Well, you should check out my YouTube channel. Shameless plug here. I'm actually working on uploading my. I have a number of games that I've played through already. They're backlogged. I haven't gone through and put the playthroughs up yet on YouTube, and mainly that's because I believe that content you put out there should really showcase your talent to the best of your ability. And I did have about 8 episodes. I played through the Mega Man games and some of the Mario games, and I put them up on YouTube, and I went back and looked at them. I was like, this isn't my best work. Like, I can edit these videos so much better. I can make them more creative and fun and engaging. And so I took them down, and I'm really going through the very first game, and that's Super Mario Brothers for the Nintendo Entertainment System. And it's fitting because it was the year that I was born, was the year that it came out in 1985, and it kind of marks the beginning of my journey here on this. And is a great metaphor, for my life in terms of the beginning of my life. And I'm really satisfied with what I've put into it so far. And I think people are really going to be excited when they see this first video. It's, I'm really putting my heart and soul into it. So I find myself going back and watching the first 6 minutes or so of it a lot. And I think that's a good sign, because if I'm enjoying it so much that I want to watch it again, then I know other people will too. So it's great. Yeah, I really, really love it. So I play retro games on my show all the time. People that go onto my channel and hit follow, there's a little heart button at the top right-hand side. People to follow will get notifications on email, or they can set up notifications for when we go live. We don't have a set schedule at the moment. We just kind of go live when we feel like it. And I say we because I really try to build the show around my viewers and their schedules and things like that. And they're all kind of fluid. So we just kind of get together, and when I go live and people want to tune in, they tune in, and we hang out and play retro games. And another type of game people are really interested and entertained with is horror games. And that's mainly because I'm kind of a weenie when it comes to those. And when I was young, I couldn't beat any of them. I'd get so scared that I'd just have to turn it off. And my kids, they told me about a year ago about a series called Five Nights at Freddy's that had become really big for a while. And I told them, I was like, all right, I'll play through it for you guys because I love you guys. And even though I know it's going to be torture, I'm going to force myself through it. And that's actually been one of the most popular games I've played. It really built my channel in terms of viewer base, and I've made some great friendships and relationships with that. And mainly it's because when you're playing a horror game, people tune in to watch you get scared and freak out. And there's a lot of things called jump scares where something will bust out and you'll just freak out on the camera and scream, and just people love that. They think it's so hilarious. And there's a feature on Twitch where you can make something called a clip, where any of the viewers can easily go in and press a button after something has happened on your live stream, and they can edit it themselves, and it's up to a minute long, and then it saves that permanently. So people really love to do that. They love to clip the scares and the funny moments, funny quotes, and If there's like an amazing shot or something I or one of my friends makes in a multiplayer game, like they'll clip that, and it's great for importing into YouTube later and making a great montage. So yeah, it's fun. It's really cool.
Cool. Well, Aaron, let's talk about your favorite book. So, what is your favorite book, and what was the number one thing that you learned from it?
So the number one book in my life, and will always be the number one book in my life, is the Bible. And I completely respect everyone's beliefs. I understand not everybody believes in the validity of the Bible or not. And there's one thing, even if people don't believe in the literal interpretation of the Bible or the divine inspired works in the Bible that some people believe it is and some people believe it's fiction. I think the one thing we all as human beings can agree on is that the overall message and meaning behind the book is a good one. And the book for me, regardless of its validity or not, has given me the strength and the inspiration and the belief in myself through the message of love that it portrays, to follow my goals and my dreams and to believe that I can achieve things, even when I have doubts. And more aptly, I think my favorite book is really described with one verse, and that's Philippians 4:13, and it just says, "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." And the reason why that's so important to me is because it has taught me to really embrace rejecting the negative feelings and thoughts and beliefs about myself that I've had throughout the course of my life, because of things that have been outside of my control, because of those things that have happened to me. And it's allowed me to reject victimhood and to embrace the rejection of inadequacy and self-doubt and worthlessness, and to embrace the value of my story and my life, and to really shun fear and accept love, because ultimately there's always going to be evil in the world, or bad, or whatever people correlate that to. But the one constant that I've always seen throughout history and in life is that even though there may be bad things that occur, and people may choose to do what people perceive as evil, really love is the lasting thing in the end that always prevails. And sometimes we don't always see it at the moment. There's been a number of tragedies in my life that were actually blessings in disguise. And I just, that's the reason why that's my number one book. I would want to say two other books, actually, if that's okay, that have inspired me.
Sure.
One of them is Stephen King's, I believe it's called On Writing. I read it a long time ago, but there was one quote in that really stuck out to me and changed my perspective on writing. And it just said, "Whatever you write what's true." And that was really simple, but it was also profound. And I really respect Stephen King, and he's a great author, and he's a very creative guy, and I really value the advice that he has to give. So that was one book that was very interesting to me. It also talked about his own personal struggles and how he became a writer, and actually about one time he almost died, and it was really inspiring. And then the other book is a book. It's based on a book by Joseph Campbell called The Hero's Journey. Sadly, I'm trying to remember the actual book. It was written by an author that was inspired by that, and you'll have to forgive me, I don't remember his name, but it was basically about the story archetypes and hero archetypes, and how all of those things that Joseph Campbell talks about are really metaphors for our own life journeys, and how we're all a hero in our own ways, and we all go through these struggles, and our life is really a story in the end, and it really was an inspirational thing to read. And yeah, so, and actually one quick other plug I want to make is my uncle, his name is Dennis Larry Fowler. He has written a number of books about Abraham Lincoln and some other fictional books. And I haven't actually read his books yet, but him as a person is one of my biggest inspirations, because I went through a great deal turmoil in my teenage years where I could have been dead. And him and my aunt, Judith Fowler, took me in and completely changed my life. And he spent 60 years trying to figure out what his life purpose was, and he found writing. And he's published a number of books under the surname or the pen name D.L. Fowler. And I really look up to him, and I really love him. So he is also not necessarily my favorite books, but my favorite author. So.
And for a final question, what is your favorite quote and why? And I think you might have already touched on this in a previous question.
Well, actually, this one's a little different. Aside from the verses in the Bible, but really a quote that's always been important in my life. And I remember the first time I ever saw it, it was in a frame on the bathroom wall at True Martial Arts in Issaquah, Washington, where I studied Taekwondo. I was one rank below black belt before I left for university. But the quote is the arena excerpt from Teddy Roosevelt's speech, the Citizenship in a Republic speech. And the quote is, "It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat." And that to me is one of the greatest quotes in the history of mankind. Because ultimately, as writers and as creators and as artists, we all will be subjected to criticism and negative reviews and naysayers and doubters and haters. And in the end, it doesn't matter what they have to say, because in the end, we're doing this for the love of our craft and for our own satisfaction and fulfillment. And if ultimately we are proud and happy and satisfied and fulfilled with what we do, then that's all that matters in the end, because we know that we did it for ourselves and for the people that love us. And ultimately, I've also seen that haters and doubters and adversaries to the creative arts as a whole and judgers are actually in the minority. They may have the greatest impact on people that are insecure about their lives or their craft or their skills, but they aren't the majority. And so that quote really speaks to me.
Well, Aaron, I want to thank you for being a guest on the show. What is the best way for people to find you online?
So the best way is just on social media, and the easiest way to find me would just be to Google FOX0R. That's my online handle, my gaming handle. That'll take you to Twitch. On YouTube, I'm under the one and only Foxor. That's how that's pronounced, FOX0R. I'm also on Instagram as FOX0R. They can also search me online under the name Aaron Kyle Andresen. That's my full legal name, or just Aaron Andresen. And I really look forward to hopefully meeting some new people through this journey and through the podcast. And I'm very pleased and honored to meet you as well, Paul. And I really thank you for the contributions that you're giving to others and in writing. And as a whole, you're making the world a better place for everyone that's a creator. And I really appreciate that.
Well, Aaron, thank you once again for being on the show, and I wish you all the best in your author journey ahead.
Thank you very much, and I'll talk to you later.
Thanks again for joining us today. To learn more about how you can be featured in our brand new Get Published business book, go to getpublishedpodcast.com.